Previously on Inside Scoop.
So if they're asking for it, that's fine. As long as they're not misleading people. I mean, really, who am I for anything? Right? You get to do what you want, right? But since we're here, it'd be real boring. We've talked about it being boring if we didn't have any opinions on anything.
Right.
But it's the same with Chitty. As long as he's saying what it's for, and you feel like his goal was pretty big, and the collection amount was pretty small.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Coupled with Chaos.
So you do the intro. It would be different.
Oh, say it like you.
Yeah.
90 Day Fiancé Inside Scoop, Volume 224.
Well, I don't like that. You're not supposed to be doing an impression of me. It would be just you doing the intro like you, but
No, you said do it like me, so I did it like you would say.
You don't have to do it like me. You don't have to do an impression of me. I just wonder what it would sound like if it was somebody different doing it. Full slate this week and kind of some fun stuff. We're going to talk about Shekina. I guess we're going to find a way to talk about Statler. David and Shelia. There's even some Blake and Jasmin in here. Josh and Lilly. Last Resort starts next week. Tom Brooks. I think you brought me some stuff on 1,000 Pound Sisters that I thought was,
I certainly did.
Was interesting.
Yes, I did too.
I think that tells a lot about them. But the best news of the week,
I believe it does.
The best news of the week is Ben and Mahogany, right? I mean,
oh boy.
I mean, just in general, I'll save that. It's about as fun as things get.
Steve, it's Mahogany.
Mahogany
Right.
is what it is.
Mahogany. Let's say it correctly.
If you're gonna play the game, let's use the correct terminology.
Yeah.
I'd hate to be wrong, because that's me. I'm just wrong. That's what I do. We are going to, for those of you who are subscribers, we are going to double up on 1,000 Pound Sisters and do 2 episodes, kind of both of them combined into one next week. But maybe we'll start off with 1,000 Pound Sisters and kind of what you were talking to me about a little bit, just now. And so for those of you who don't watch 1,000 Pound Sisters, it's one of the few reality shows that I think is really real. I mean, they go on excursions and events and stuff, but when it comes to the family relationships, it's really something else. So
it is.
So those of you who watch it, well, then this will be good. For those of you who don't, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure, but this is some inside scoop for them. What there are 5 of the children that are the basis of the show, and that's Misty, Chris, Amanda, Tammy, and Amy. And so it's really based most around Tammy and Amy. They are the 1,000 Pound Sisters.
Now, what drew this information out was in the most recent episode that we have not discussed yet. A couple of them went to a genealogist at, I think, their library.
It was definitely a library.
Yeah, and met with them about their family history. And in there, Chris briefly mentioned, hey, this guy was a big boy. And he pointed him out on their family tree that she had prepared. Well, that big boy he was referring to, that he said was 1,300 pounds, turns out to be the dad of Tammy and Amy Statler. So this led to, hey, don't they have the same dad? And the answer is no. Their mom, Darlene, was married 3 different times. In her first marriage, that was the father of only Misty.
Misty's, well, the oldest.
So she has no other complete siblings. The second marriage was with the father of Chris and Amanda. Now, they do look the most alike. So this makes sense.
It does.
Also, the third marriage was the father of Tammy and Amy. Now, there's 2 big takes I get from this. One is Tammy and Amy had some of the most profound weight issues in the family. They share the father who himself was 1,300 pounds. He also married again and had a brother, which with another mother, so that was a half brother to Tammy and Amy, but sharing the same very large father. And he is 900 pounds. So that would lead you to think there's some genetic component, whether it's genetic metabolism issue, or if it is perhaps a mental health issue that is genetic that leads them to overeat. But whatever it is, that is a shared trait with all of the children who came from their father.
Sure.
Now, the other big take that I get from this news is, wow, this really certainly does explain the big divisions amongst the siblings.
It does.
Tammy and Amy pal around a lot. They laugh and cut up and seem to understand each other more than the others when they're just sitting around being silly and goofy together.
Sure.
This makes sense. They're the two youngest, and they had the same parents.
Sure, and grew up at the same time. This probably also explains Chris as what I would call the Amanda Whisperer.
Yes,
because
he and Amanda are full siblings.
And they would have, in that window,
and they're older.
This seems to be, I think, a common theme of our personal podcast we talked about last week, and even I think it may turn out to be a lot of this personal podcast that we have this week. I think it explains a lot how you think about how maybe all these, they're all brothers and sisters, that they should all be close, but it really shows that they grew up in completely different environments,
different families. Yes,
and you can have one parent, but that's in common with all of them, but that parent's at a different stage of their life at each and every one of these times.
So I was going to say, even in my own family growing up, there's a big division because the older siblings were very close in age and grew up together when my parents were younger. Then there was an enormous gap of time, and then they had the last two of us, and they were much older then. And so my older siblings always said that we had different parents than they did. And we said, well, yes, you most certainly did. Because they did things with them and had family outings. We got none of that because our parents were older and they just wanted to sit at home.
Nothing wrong with that.
Like they were retired,
Is that a problem?
Like us, we're older parents also to our youngest. So, you see how that happens. And for them, they viewed it as we were, it was easier for us, they thought.
Different. I think what it is different. I think you can always look at it that way.
There's pros and cons of both.
However you want to look at it. But I think you can see, for those of you who watch 1,000-Pound Sisters, I think you can really see the difference. This makes a lot of sense.
It does. Explained a lot for me. So I wanted to be sure and share it.
Yeah, I think that does matter. The news, I don't know that it's news, since I guess we're talking about physical things and their weight. We might as well just stay on that theme with Shekina and her fillers that she had in. What did she say during the other way? Tell all.
She said she had it all dissolved except for her lips.
I think she said it dissolved. Like, I think after time. Let's make it very clear.
No. She said she had it dissolved.
Okay. I don't know.
At his request.
We are not doctors. We are not dietitians.
Oh, we're not going to do this every time now, are we?
No, we are not. What aren't we not? We are not therapists. You know what? We're just us, right? So that's just us. So I don't know. But what she says then is she put out afterwards that she had fat injected in her face.
Okay.
So she was swollen up. I think she had it done, I think it was a few weeks before the tell-all. So she was still a little swollen. but she was happy how it went out. But in fact, she said, I didn't have fillers in. Now, this could be true. It could just be what she's saying.
Well, who was it?
They're not going there. Do not talk about. That's the name that we will also not mention about having fat injected.
No.
Okay, good.
That's not what I was going to say.
That's good.
Why am I forgetting her name now?
Give me a hint.
The gonna be a midwife.
Corona.
Okay, how could I forget that? She sure did laugh awfully hard and did not believe that the fillers were gone.
Yeah, I wonder what the camera does to things like that. And then when you're face to face with somebody,
she was like, "Okay, sure." I was laughing.
Right. So that is her story. She says that it has been, and she also said it's been, I think, 2 years since she had her lips filled.
And when Corona pointed out that her chin does not look the same as it did in former photos, and they showed it, that was a true statement.
Yeah, I can't tell. I'm just looking. It's just too much.
Well, her chin used to be narrow and pointed, and now it's rounded and full.
I just can't imagine getting stuff injected in your face.
Yeah, me either.
Like, who is the first one to do that? Hey, this is a good idea. And it dissolves. Or I guess, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to speculate as to what happens to that stuff. Amazing, though.
Yeah, it gets reabsorbed into the body eventually.
It can't be super for you. I would just guessing that this is probably not good for your body.
Well, if you weren't born with it, there's got to be some side effect.
Right. Statler and Dempsey were not at the tell-all, and it looks like Statler has come out with her own podcast. And I think it's called like Tell All is what it is. So she's come out with, and her and I think Armando are still having whatever feud that they're having.
Beef.
But Statler put out about a 13-minute podcast. I'm not sure that anybody made it through all 13 minutes. I listened to some snippets. She has promised to have on other reality show I guess participants, let's call that participants. I don't want to say stars.
Cast members.
Yeah, that would be best. But she also solicited if anybody knows any that want to be on to point them in her direction. So she's just trying to, here's the thing for this, and she talks about clearing her name, but she's still using her show name and not actually her real name.
Obviously. Because that's the only way she's known.
Sure. But not putting out a real name. And we're not putting out a real name. I think everybody, you could find out her real name if you wanted to. But she's still not using it. She's still a character. She says that her character on the show was 100% made up by Sharp Entertainment. But she's still not using her real name. I wonder if that was Statler was made up by them. I can only imagine for her that she probably about 3 or 4 episodes into whatever podcast she's doing and
gives up.
Yeah, she'll be on something else.
Gets distracted by a squirrel.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing wrong with squirrel chasing, right? That's fine. No. We have a ton more stuff coming. David and Shelia, Blake and Jasmin, Ben and Mahogany, Tom Brooks, and much more. So stick around for that.
Thank you for listening.
You can listen to the rest of this episode
by subscribing to our Coupled with Chaos channel on Apple,
by subscribing to our Patreon,
or by subscribing to our Supercast
for $3.99 a month,
where you can hear us talk about reality shows,
real life, and more on our podcasts,
covering shows airing on TLC, A&E, Bravo, and the WE Network.
Just follow the instructions in the show notes.
Tell your friends about this podcast.
And rate and review us on your favorite podcast player.
Follow us at Coupled with Chaos on all the socials.
Or contact us directly by email at coupledwithchaos@gmail.com.